What if you went to sleep tonight and woke up in a world where you had already died? Not a normal dream, not a nightmare, but a real place, coherent, functioning perfectly, without you. Today I'm going to tell you two accounts. Two different people, two separate experiences, but they both saw the same thing, a world where they no longer existed. And the most disturbing part? That world seemed to continue normally, without them. Tuani had always been afraid of sleeping. It wasn't fear of the dark, it was fear of the crossing. She said sleep felt like an invisible step, as if you stepped wrong, you might fall somewhere else. That night she tried to resist, TV on in the background, magazines on the bed, anything to avoid crossing over. But she crossed. There was no dream. There was a fall. I opened my eyes, and I was at school. But it wasn't the school. It was a reorganized version. Sealed, closed, wrong. The windows were covered. The hallways bent at impossible angles. The paint had the color of old bruises. The fluorescent lights buzzed like a trapped insect. And the smell. Damp paper. Oxidized metal. Something that had never seen sunlight. Her mother was beside her, the two of them walking, too small, as if the building had been constructed to observe them. Then came the cells, concrete bars, inside them, figures, not shadows, presences, sagging skin, sunken faces, arms reaching out. But it wasn't a plea for help, it was hunger, and all of them whispered the same word, Sitialem. They didn't scream, they whispered, as if the building itself were pronouncing the name. Tuani said something she never forgot. They weren't reaching for us. They were reaching for something inside us. She felt catalogued, measured, classified, as if that place were a registry, and someone was deciding who belongs and who doesn't. The hallways began to close in, bend, narrow. The architecture felt alive, punitive, like a panopticon, a structure built to watch every movement. Then they ran. Hands began pushing through the bars, brushing against them, not cold, hungry. They found an exit that made no sense being there. A door, a white flash, and then she was pulled out. She woke up in her bedroom, the TV still on. The clock showed only a few hours had passed. But the detail that destroyed any simple explanation came days later. Her mother described the same experience. The same hallway, the same smell, the same name. Setialem. One dream can be vivid, but two identical dreams. At the same time? Years later, Tuani returned to the renovated school. Bright walls, open windows, sunlight pouring in. But she said she could still feel the old geometry beneath the new paint, as if the wrong version had never left, as if it were simply waiting. Gustavo's story. If Tuani's story feels like a prison, Gustavo's is a funeral. Gustavo practiced conscious projection, not out of curiosity, but discipline. He used sleep paralysis as a doorway. And one night in 2024 he decided to go further. He left, and landed at home. But it wasn't exactly his home. The couch was at a different angle. A photograph was missing. The air felt heavy, as if something had already happened there. He went to the kiosk where his girlfriend worked. She was there. But she was crying. Not ordinary sadness. Grief. Deep grief. In her arms, a small child. The child looked directly at him, and pointed, recognized him. But the adults couldn't see him. Then he understood. He wasn't invisible. He was dead. In that reality, he had already passed. He watched his own absence being processed. The world kept moving, bills were paid, work continued, life reorganized. Without him, he tried to touch, to speak. Nothing. Only the child kept staring. As if they knew something the adults had forgotten. Then came the pull, violent. He slammed back into his body, heart racing. But in the days that followed, small things began to echo. Changes at the real kiosk. Details that matched. A ring, an unexplained period of sadness. Small alignments. Nothing that proves anything. but enough to make forgetting impossible. Both of them saw worlds where they were absent, not as wandering ghosts, but as pieces removed, replaced, archived. A prison world, a mourning world, two different architectures, same message, you may not be here, and the world will continue. Now I want you to think about something. If a version of Tuani was classified in that corridor, if a version of Gustavo was already buried in that reality, how many versions of you might be happening right now? And more importantly, in which one are you the absent one? Maybe these accounts aren't about death. Maybe they're about overlap. Maybe, while you're listening to this, there's a world very close to yours where someone just woke up with the feeling they just returned from a place where you were no longer there. And maybe, Satilem is not a destination, but an intersection. A station where versions cross, some return, others stay. So tonight, before you fall asleep, pay attention to the feeling of crossing over. Because that step may not be only psychological. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, look carefully around your room. See if everything is exactly where it should be, or if something has been slightly repositioned. Good night, and until the next threshold.